How has they been handling this? The man who got the PR Week magazine's Communicator of the Year award just last month. How has he been handling this from a PR perspective? Pleased to welcome back to Business for Breakfast the presence engineer and brand strategist extraordinaire and our regular guest here on Business for Breakfast, Roshini Rajkumar, joins us once again on the program. Good morning, Roshini. How was your flight?
You know, the flight was good. Took a little longer than planned, but it was smooth, and that's more than we can say for some United passengers.
That's certainly the case. So I want to, before we get to the public relations, what's your thought just on how this was handled from the get-go, setting aside the PR aspect?
Yeah, you know, it just wasn't handled well, and I don't know. I don't know. I haven't seen when exactly the first time he saw that video, because when you see pictures and video, just the sheer horror right away, if you're a human being, you should react to, let alone the CEO of United Airlines. So the bottom line is just he went into spin mode, he went into corporate speak, and he sort of forgot he was a human being.
This is an upsetting event. I apologize for having to re-accommodate these customers. So that was what was going on.
That? I mean, who talks like that, right?
Reaccommodation. So let's talk about words here. What about that term, that reaccommodate, to describe, okay, we had to move them along to, I guess the next flight out was like 2 p.m. the next day.
Yeah, I mean, just terrible. The bottom line is the first words, and this is a great lesson for all sorts of leaders, even if you're not a huge CEO with a huge company, it is to remember that you're a human. And when your teams or a member of like a subgroup, the law enforcement that came on that plane, when anyone connected with your brand messes up, the buck really has to stop with you. And that definitely goes with the CEO. You have to remember you're a human first. You can certainly add in language that's PR friendly, you know, words of we are looking into this, we are investigating, we are going to get to the bottom of this, I promise you. Any of that kind of language would have been so much better than reaccommodate.
Now, there was a letter that he sent Monday night to employees, and of course, as everything gets leaked out these days, the letter was leaked out, which he should totally have expected. And according to this letter, he describes it as basically, as CNBC puts it, when the crew members first approached the passenger to tell him to leave, he, quote, raised his voice and refused to comply, and each time they asked again, he refused and became more and more disruptive and belligerent. Crew members were left with no choice but to call Chicago aviation security officers to assist in removing the customer from the flight, he wrote. And at one point, the passenger continued to resist, running back into the aircraft in defiance of both our crew and security officials. And he said, I emphatically stand behind all of you. Now, you have to know, being an intelligent and savvy CEO, that letter was going to go out there. And I don't think that helped the case at all.
No, it didn't help the case. And you don't really want to issue these long, formal official statements until more of the facts are in. And that's why we have to, I don't know, for lack of a better term, revert to being a human first. You are a leader. You can be ethical. You can show some integrity. And putting out, that is, to me, as also a lawyer, that's kind of a CYA sort of letter, that they're putting that out there so that is some language that's out there to foreshadow, any lawsuits that could come up, and I'm sure there will be many.
I'm talking with Roshini Rajkumar here on Business for Breakfast. And so yesterday he came out with a more profound sort of apology, really trying to get it more right. As I said, he describes it as truly horrific and says that I want you to know we take full responsibility and we will work to make it right. I promise you we will do better, arguing that it will not happen again. To fix what's broken so that this will not happen, will never happen again. What's your take on that final statement released yesterday after the letter on Monday and the initial reaction?
Well, in a perfect world, something more like that would have been the first statement. I'm glad that he did have a take two on this. I know many are calling for his resignation, and I've really been thinking about this from the position of being an executive coach. And fortunately, I've never had a CEO have this kind of a crisis on their hands, but they've been in tough situations before with the media. It could be a great test case for recovery of a CEO, okay? I don't know that this rises to the occasion of the CEO of Wells Fargo, and that was just horrific. It was so hard to imagine that he was so ill-prepared for those congressional hearings. He just looked terrible, sounded terrible. He deserved to lose his job. In this case, if this CEO is truly, truly sorry and really can back up the words of the second statement, it's a wonderful test case to see, can you also be a role model for how to repair relationships and repair reputation? And you know what? We've gotten to such a society of people just sticking to their own ground and having their own opinions. Maybe we should let him be human and fix this situation. So that's kind of where I landed with this after everything that I read. And right as I was getting off the plane, Jimmy, I checked Twitter. United is no longer the top thing that's trending, and I know it was trending for a couple days there. So that's good news as they are able to quell some of the public outcry with more human reaction and really digging into all the things that went down and being transparent moving forward. This could be a great one-day test study that we study in the business schools and elsewhere on that reparation of the CEO's situation as well as a company brand.
I'm going to call it intentional, but one thing that stuck out to me in your very eloquent response there was that you said, when I landed at this, and then just coming off the plane, was that intentional? you landed at a conclusion?
No, I'm just this is how, this interview's been in my mind all morning since, I got up around 4:30 Central
Right,
Time
so
today
there you go.
To get on my plane. I really wanted to see, was this still trending on Twitter? Things are happening minute by minute and definitely hourly on this story. So I thought, well, I know Jimmy will have the latest for his listeners, but I better check Twitter before I go on to see if something's happened in the last 3 hours while I was on the plane.
Well,
so the only good news there is it wasn't trending anymore in the first 10 spots on Twitter that I saw.
Yeah, well, I will tell you, Roshini, that the stock has been kind of recovering now. It's down 1%. It's closing in, but it's been rising back up. So that certainly is an interesting sign. What I find particularly interesting here is that he was honored by PR Week as U.S. Communicator of the Year just a few weeks ago.
Yes, that is a very interesting twist. I mean, that's like a talk show host dream that happened a few weeks ago, right? But the bottom line is, because he did get that award, and PR Week has a great reputation in that industry, I'd want to really, that's kind of why I want to say, let's see if we can give him a chance to repair his reputation, his company brand, and go out there and now advocate that other CEOs and leaders don't mess up like he did in the first place. We may even see a TED Talk come out of him in 6 months as to how you do it better or how you do it right.
Yeah, if I were the board, I don't think I would fire him for something like this. It's not, like you said, the Wells Fargo CEO, a dramatic difference to be sure about this. But I think he'll keep his job. Hopefully he'll recover things and it'll come back up. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. What's the number one takeaway that you think listeners should take from this in terms of their own business experiences?
Well, I'm going to go back to a word that I say to you often, which is authenticity. So Be human, be authentic. If you don't have all the information, be open about saying that. People will forgive you for that. Honesty will always win. Lying or fibbing or saying weird, strange things and then trying to backpedal, will never win. So that
Right.
is what any business person out there can take from this.
Now, I do have to ask you real quickly, because we're up against a break, and then we'll let you go back to your traveling fun. Roshini Rajkumar, of course, our guest here on Business for Breakfast, and that is Sean Spicer, the White House press secretary yesterday. Have you been paying attention at all to his comments about saying that Jews were taken into the Holocaust Center, but that Hitler was not using the gas and his own people in the same way that Assad is doing? Didn't go over very well.
It didn't go over very well, and I was just like, why are we invoking Hitler
During Passover?
Well, okay, yes, I understand
No less.
that, but the bottom line is, in his position, this is just never a good thing to bring up. I mean, just like references to Watergate and really sad times in our nation's history, references to anything about the Holocaust, if you don't have all of your facts correct, don't go there. Come up with other symbols and allusions to color your commentary. That would be my big advice on that one.
The question is, does he take any? Obviously, he's taking a PR hit. That's pretty significant. But I don't know that it will rise to the level of Donald Trump saying you're fired.
No, I don't think Donald Trump will fire him. Sean Spicer, as we've seen, has done a lot of, unfortunately, the dirty work for the administration and how he has to message these things. And, he's only human, too. He's under a lot of stress, and sometimes he just doesn't get it right. But I would never, ever bring up a Hitler or a Holocaust reference. I mean, there is just no reason for it. You can always come up with something better. And frankly, the things going on in Syria and Assad, there are enough negative images there that you can draw from those in any White House press conference you have to give.
Yeah, well, we'll certainly see what happens, but it's interesting. Two significant PR stories of note, and we appreciate having you on, Roshini Rajkumar, once again to kind of break it down and give your perspective.
Thanks, Jimmy. Have a great day.
You as well. And we're back, we will